From contact sports to the rough and tumble world of Boston politics, when Marty Walsh moves into the mayor's office, he'll bring a credential that could help the city. He's a longtime state rep who knows how to get things done on Beacon Hill. And if Walsh wants, that could shift the dynamic between the city and the state. Adam Riley has more.
Today at the State House, Boston Mayor-elect Marty Walsh dropped by Governor Deval Patrick's office for a half-hour meeting. Afterward, both men were upbeat.
We've just had a great conversation, the mayor-elect of Boston and I.
As the governor stated, we had a great meeting.
Of course, Walsh and Patrick are hardly strangers. Walsh has been a state rep and a Patrick ally for years. And as mayor, that could be an asset. There's so much that the state sort of controls that's counterintuitive, from the number of liquor licenses that Boston gets to the taxes the city can and can't levy. Is that something that you want to work to change as mayor?
I mean, it's something we'll talk about down the road. We didn't talk about that today, but it's something we're going to we'll have conversations as we move forward.
Beacon Hill's control over Boston dates back to the days when Yankee legislators thought they needed to keep Irish-American politicians like then Boston Mayor James Michael Curley from running amok. Ever since, Curley's successors have worked to bolster Boston's autonomy. Kevin White got the state to absorb welfare costs previously borne by cities and towns. Ray Flynn got the okay to tax hotel stays and jet fuel sold at Logan Airport. And among other things, Tom Menino won the right to tax meals. But today, Walsh had a simpler request.
The one thing I asked him was for more local aid, and he said, he smirked.
Of course, if Walsh wants to get more ambitious, he's got plenty of time.
My next guest is a go-to voice when it comes to Boston politics. Larry DeCara is a former city council president. He now works at the law firm Nixon Peabody. And you've got a laundry list of to-dos for the mayor, and
I get plenty of things that Deval and Marty can talk about. I think the real challenge is to unshackle the city, to liberate the city from all those laws which have hampered the city's going forward for a long time. We can start with liquor. Our licensing board is appointed by the governor, been that way since 1909. No good reason, except as Adam suggested, the Yankees didn't trust the Irish. Why do we have a cap on liquor licenses? Because that was a law enacted around the time of Prohibition. Makes
why are
no
they so
sense.
expensive? They shouldn't be. They should be free.
Yeah. Why do we have a cap on cabs? Because somebody probably knew somebody who owned some cab licenses. In fact, when we had the convention center bill, the city was authorized to auction off cab medallions. And the interesting thing was, as they auctioned them off, 20 and 30 at a time, as I recall, the price stayed the same. Let's auction off some more cab medallions.
Hundreds.
Maybe 100, maybe 200, maybe 300. That's tens of millions of dollars of potential income. Maybe we auction off the liquor licenses, just like we do for the cab medallions. What about the MBTA? There's no good reason why the service stops at 12:32, whenever it stops at night. Let's have it open later. And while we're talking about having things open later...
Who's going to pay for that?
Well, that may, in fact, be one of the things that Marty can ask the governor for. I think the number was $1.6 million when they had the night owl. And I'd much rather have people on an MBTA bus than driving. And one thing is certain, we have to have lots of different options for people to get around the city. A lot of people don't want to have an automobile. That's why we have to have a level playing field, whether it be for Uber or Lyft or Sidecar, whatever these services might be, so that people can get from point A to point B without owning an automobile. And let's have places open later. You and I may be very happy going to bed at 9:30 at night. Some of our friends are just going out at that point in time. Give them those options. This is no longer a Puritan city.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, do you think Marty Walsh, having been a state rep for all these years, knows how to maneuver the system better, or is he now just going to be the mayor versus the governor?
Well, there have been many research done about the relationship between the mayor and the governor. The late Danny Rudston even did a doctoral dissertation on it. And there's a natural rivalry that goes back as far back as anybody can remember. But Marty has been a member of the legislature for 18 years. He knows them. They're his brothers and sisters in the trenches. They endorsed him. They worked for him. And I think he'll have a window early in the new year, early in his first administration, where he can say, this is what I want, this is what I need, and I would suggest that he make it a long list and he push hard and he get it through.
Yeah, start for some big initiatives. What about local aid? He talked about local aid, but Boston's lost $154 million over 7 years. That's a huge chunk of money.
When Prop 2.5 went through about 30 years ago, early 80s, the reliance that Boston had on the property tax was about 62%. Today, we are back at 62%. We get a minimal number of dollars from the state vis-a-vis all the other great cities in this country. And the report that a number of us worked on at the Boston Foundation, Boston Unbound, gave the statistics clear as can be. We are much too dependent upon the property tax. It's a disincentive for growth. Marty Walsh is going to be a pro-growth mayor. He wants people to build buildings. He wants people to build housing. And maybe we can have a whole new set of rules so we can fast-track development along the Indigo Line. So all those abandoned buildings and all that land which is sitting there idle along the train tracks can be housing, and those folks will be closer to downtown Boston than people living in the Back Bay.
So that would mean cutting through the abandoned housing laws, the abandoned property law, and say, it's ours now, we're going to take it, we're going to develop it.
Fast-track it. That's the only way to get it done. Boston State Hospital, not far from where I grew up. It took 30 years before anything was constructed. Let's not do that again.
Mm-hmm. What about some of the other things, like big initiatives, arts, or, you know, he wants to get this Office of Recovery Services going, you know, for the school system, more independent schools.
I mean, that's going to require dollars, and the dollars have to come from someplace. And because of Prop 2.5, there is a statutory limit on what the city can generate from property taxes. And we're mighty close to that limit, and we can only increase 2.5% per year, except when we have new development. In good times we do, in not so good times we don't. So that's why the mayor has to seek out other sources of revenue.
I don't know about you, but mine went up more than 2.5% every year.
Absolutely. Assessments have gone up a lot.